Trout Lake Campers Tide Runner from Trout here. Just checking in. Hope you guys are enjoying this beautiful day that we're having in the best way you can at your homes or going out for a little bit of a walk. Social distancing, of course, but just wanted to drop a new video devotional for you guys. This is by Tom Richards, who is a favorite speaker of many of you guys over the last couple of years if you've been at senior high camp or a young teens camper. And he did this devotional for Bethany Academy down in the cities, but also sent it our way. And so just wanted to bless you with a video devotional, really good devotional from just talking about how we can rely on the Bible as our source of truth in these uncertain times. So hope you enjoy it. Hope you enjoy the video and stay safe, stay healthy, and we can't wait to see you when we can this summer.
Hey everyone, what a crazy time we're living through right now. It was just 2 months ago that we were waiting for the snow to melt, anticipating longer days of sunlight, thinking about spring break, even looking forward to graduation. But not today. Today we're doing school and even chapel from home. If you're like me, you're probably wearing your pajamas at home. Maybe you have daytime pajamas and nighttime pajamas. Maybe you've forgotten to brush your teeth a few days. That's okay. We've never lived through anything like this before. It would have been hard to imagine 2 months ago that we can't go to McDonald's and eat French fries inside, that we can't go to church as big groups or even go back to school. It'll be hard to imagine because no one living today has ever lived through anything like this before now and until now. So I wonder if once things get back to normal, and I think that they will, and many, many years go by, will people believe the stories that we tell them about today? Will people believe it when we say we wore masks to the grocery store? When we say there was a shortage of toilet paper? I think they will. I think they will because there's a process by which we validate history. Let me give you an example. Right now I'm sitting outside my old elementary school. When I came here, it was called Fulton Elementary. It's in southwest Minneapolis, a few blocks away from Lake Harriet. You've probably been there before. Only it's not called Fulton Elementary anymore. Today it's called by a whole different name. The Minneapolis school system, they made some changes a few years ago. They decided a new name was appropriate, and they named it after the lake that's not so far away. But when I tell you that this used to be Fulton Elementary, how can you know that that's true? This is going to be our example of how we validate anything in history. Number one, we look at people who put it there in the first place. So there was a building commission that was formed back in 1915 when the Minneapolis Public Schools decided that they needed a new elementary school on 49th and Vincent. They applied for permits with the city. They hired a construction company. There's school board meeting minutes where they decided what to name it. They named it after Robert Fulton, who was the creator of the steamboat. All of those records from the people who put this school here tell us that Fulton was a real place. Number two, we look at firsthand witnesses. I'm one. I spent 6 years at this school from 1st through 6th grade. My mom, about 25 years before me, she spent 6 years at this school. And about 25 years before her, my grandma spent 6 years at this school. They even had some of the same teachers. That's crazy for me to think about. But I'm a first-hand witness. My mom is, all of our classmates were, and generations of other kids. Besides the first-hand witnesses who were kids, think of all the generations of teachers who worked here. Some of them are still alive today. Betty's a great example. Betty was my 6th grade teacher, but back then, her name was Mrs. Jacobs. She taught me language arts. Well, many, many years went by, and Betty and I became friends as adults. Have you ever thought that someday you might become friends with one of your teachers today? It's a crazy thought, but for me, it was a gift. It was like getting a second grandma that I never expected to get again. Betty and I do things that language arts teachers would like to do. We go to movies, we go to theater, we go to shows and concerts, and then we go out for dinner afterward and talk about it. Betty has just become one of the dearest people I know. Nancy is another example, except Nancy back then was Mrs. Ostmo. She was my gym teacher from 1st through 6th grade. Well, we're friends today, and we get together about once a month. We do things that gym teachers like to do. We walk around the Arboretum. Our favorite thing to do is to play golf together. She lets me cheat, but we don't make a big deal about it. Nancy and Betty and all of their colleagues from back in the day, they remember that this place was called Fulton. There's a group of retired teachers that get together and still talk about it. There's a group of alumni on Facebook where we share pictures and we share artifacts that we had. So besides the first-hand witnesses, the next thing we looked at are artifacts. I went in my garage today and I found old yearbooks that people have signed. Look at this picture of a page I found where at the very top of the page there's actually a note written from Mrs. Jacobs, who's Betty, and from Mrs. Ostmo, who's Nancy. Isn't that so incredible that I found that page today? Besides yearbooks, which thousands and thousands of people have, the school itself has an archive in the library. They have every yearbook dating back to 1915. Those are all true accounts of people with names and pictures to match who spent their time here and would attest to this being Fulton School. Besides yearbooks, we have artifacts like class pictures. In this one of my class from 6th grade, I'm the guy all the way on the right, up on the top. See if you can find me. Also in that picture is Betty, our teacher, and she's at the top of the playground with her feet dangling off to the side. Besides class pictures, we have things like awards. I found this one from my 4th grade teacher, Mr. Capitz, Citizen of the Week. Tommy has improved, completing his work. He's also thoughtful and friendly. Signed by Mr. Capitz and signed by Dr. Danahy, the principal. People have these kind of artifacts all over their attics and garages, packed away in boxes. They have school ribbons from science fairs. They have trophies from sport games. They have jerseys and school uniforms. They have report cards. I didn't save mine. Even if we look past the school artifacts, there's other artifacts that would be supporting documents. We could look at building permits from the city. We could look at aerial photography from when they mapped the city out. We could look at community events that took place in this building and have been recorded. We could even look at police reports. I'm sure there's been some of those over the years. The last thing we can do is look at archaeology itself. Even though this building is no longer called Fulton, there's still signs that point to it. In fact, over the front doors, etched in stone, permanently, it says Fulton Elementary School or Robert Fulton School. They can't scrub that off. And I suspect that someday, maybe 100 years from now, when they tear this building down, they'll find a time capsule that the original builders placed underneath the foundation, which will be more evidence that this was here. So have I made a case to help you believe that this place right now, even though it isn't called Fulton, it really was at one point, and there's a really easy way to validate it. Well, you guys, that's the same way we validate anything. You know that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl in 2020, and for all of history that will come, people will believe that. It's in the record books. There's archives, there's video recordings that were blasted over the internet. There were fans there live. There were game balls and jerseys. There were pictures taken. No one's going to dispute it. The evidence proves it. You know that right now it's $1 to buy a pop at McDonald's. We have the same paper trail, the same life experiences, where people will believe that many, many, many years from now. Do you know that it used to be 5 cents for a pop at McDonald's when they first opened? We know that to be true from history. There's things that you've experienced in your lifetime, like Barack Obama became the first African American president of the United States. That is a fact that nobody will dispute for the rest of your life and well beyond because of all of the supporting evidence behind it. So when we take that lens to judge and validate history, I'll use a different word for it, trust but verify. President Reagan was my favorite president of all, and that was a famous quote of his. We can trust what the history books tell us because of the process by which we validate. So we believe things that happened even before we were born. In your case, 9/11. You probably believe that the terrorists attacked and that the buildings fell. You probably believe that man walked on the moon. You probably believed that Hitler killed the Jews. Why can we believe all those things? Well, because right now, there's people still living who remember exactly where they were the day of 9/11 when they got the news. Your parents could tell you the very spot they were standing when they heard that we were under attack. There are people who lost loved ones when the buildings collapsed, who are still living today, who could tell you all about it. There's a memorial there. There's a hole, literally a hole in the ground that's become a memorial that we can go and examine today. We believe that Hitler killed the Jews because there are people still living, not many left, who lived through that time and actually survived the concentration camps. They lost family members that they loved, and they lived to tell about it. No one disputes these things in history because history has a way of validating and proving through that process that we just described. That's why if I made up a lie, if I said that my school used to be called Tom Richards Academy, no one would believe me. Because the people who put it there, that's not what the record says. There's no first-hand witnesses that experienced Tom Richards Academy. There's no supporting evidence or documentation, and there's no archaeology that would say so. So what does that have to do with chapel today? Well, I used to go to Bethany Academy back when I was in high school, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's awesome that we can examine our faith through an academic lens, and on the other hand, it's sort of a downfall once in a while because our faith starts to feel like homework at private Christian school. I want to flip that upside down by encouraging you today. I'm not an archaeologist, and I'm not a historian, and I'm not a theologian. I can't offer you a lifetime of experience of those things, but I am good at reasoning with people. And so I want to reason with you today and say that when we take an academic look at our faith, I think that the evidence will help us increase our faith. The same process that we use to validate anything in history, from football stats to McDonald's Coke prices, to the man on the moon, to the life of Christ. We look at who put it there, first-hand witnesses, we look at the supporting evidence and the artifacts, and we look at the archaeology around. Do you know that there is no life more documented in all of history than the life of Jesus Christ? Even Abraham Lincoln, who has 15,000 books written about him, pales in comparison. Imagine Abraham Lincoln, there's this much written on him, and then imagine there's this much written on Jesus Christ. Not only in the Bible, but in other ancient works, in so many other supporting documents. I'm kind of a history buff, and I like reading about our old presidents. You've probably heard of Watergate, and you know that President Nixon resigned, and all of his helpers went to prison. One of those people was Chuck Colson, and Chuck Colson in prison became a believer. And this is what he said, and he says it so good, I'm going to read it word for word. He said, "I know for a fact that the resurrection is true. And Watergate proved it to me." How? Because 12 men testified that they had seen Jesus raised from the dead. Then they proclaimed that truth for 40 years, never once denying it. Every one of those disciples was beaten, tortured, stoned, and put in prison. They would not have endured that if it were not true. Watergate, on the other hand, embroiled 12 of the most powerful men in the country. But they couldn't even keep their lies straight for 3 weeks. You're telling me that 12 apostles could keep alive for 40 years? Absolutely impossible. let me leave you with this thought. What do you suppose is in this cup? I'll give you a clue. You have to listen carefully. What's your guess? Do you think it's golf balls? Do you think it's acorns? Do you think it's rocks? Do you think it's coins? Listen carefully. I'm looking at it right now, and I can tell you what's in here. I'm the one who put it here. It's rocks. Do you believe me? It takes a little bit of faith because you can't see it. You could hear it. I'm the one who put it there. I'm telling you, but maybe you're still a skeptic. I'm going to ask my helper Ben, who's been shooting this video, to come. Ben, would you look in the cup and tell them what you see?
I see rocks.
Okay, I'm still not going to show you. I put it there, and I'm telling you what it is. Ben is a first-hand witness. He's telling you what it is. You don't have to believe what you're hearing, but wouldn't you at least agree right now that it would take more faith to believe it's something other than rocks than to believe it's rocks? You guys have a great rest of your day, studying at home, brush your teeth, send your teacher a nice little chat or something saying thank you, and hopefully next time we're in chapel we'll be all back together again very, very soon.